Welcome to the Microsoft Security Insights Podcast with your hosts, Franklin Grimberg and Edward Walton, where we discuss Microsoft 365 security and Azure security news and products. Recorded June 30th, 2021. Good evening, Franklin. Good evening, Rod. How are you? How are you guys doing?
Great. How are you doing?
I'm all right. All right. Let me repeat my last episode. AT&T hacked my network by updating my router, cloning my SSIDs with no WPA key, leaving them wide open, turned on the DHCP server, and had me totally exposed. Had to figure that out today when all my home electronics that I have on separate SSIDs started failing. So all my SSIDs are named after martial arts, old cult films and stuff. So I had like Wu-Tang, Shaolin, Poison Clan, White Lotus. All of them are just out and everybody's getting on it, right? That's okay, except for these things have a backhaul into my network, right? So I got that fixed, and I got a couple of new Cisco Meraki's coming that I'm gonna update my house. They're pretty old. And then
are you Microsoft certified again?
So number two, I can't see green.
Or uncertified.
I'm uncertified. So I got all my profile back. What happened is when they were trying to do the merge, I think I started the downfall unwillingly. I had to leave.
Now I remember a few episodes ago you blamed all of this on me.
Well, it is you. It is you. Ultimately, you were the catalyst. Like everybody has a trigger, right?
All right,
So what happened is I left Comcast because I moved to a neighborhood that has AT&T. My Microsoft profile or MSA was associated to the Comcast. I flipped it to Gmail. Something happened with that when I registered to be able to get free exams, I had to link my Microsoft email to it. When it did it, it changed the profile to my Microsoft email account. Didn't tell me. Moved everything over. But it maintained the old email. So when I logged on with blah, 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 Gmail, guess what came up? The profile, but no ID. The profile's there. He said, you haven't taken an exam. I was like, wait a minute, I've been using this for years. Didn't know this. I took the exam, got a crazy email that said, congratulations, and then you on your certification or something, but the body of the email had nothing. This one I told you, I said, hey, it looks like I passed the beta, but there's nothing in there. I go on, didn't get it. For those who hadn't listened to the show, I showed up to the exam place on time, but sat in the lobby because the person didn't take me back. They didn't want to test me because they said I was late. She said, I'll test you, but I really shouldn't because I got to fill out a lot of paperwork.
What was her name? Come on.
It's in the email. I'll get her name.
He directed you to go to the left when you should have went to the right. Is that what you're saying?
Oh, that too. So I said, lady, I sat out in the lobby because it's a shared office. So the office is shared by multiple businesses and they have a central front desk attendant. So when I first come up there, I said, excuse me, I'm here. I'm on the phone. I said, oh, okay. So I sat down quietly in the lobby, on my phone, and I finally looked up, and I'm 10 minutes or so into being waiting there, not really knowing how far I'm past my exam time because I didn't remember. So she finally goes, lets the girl know in the back, you have a testing candidate. I sit down for another 5 minutes. She gets me, so when I sign in, she does her thing. She said, oh, you were supposed to be here 10:30. It's 10:45. Like, I've been sitting in the lobby. Well, I can't test you. I said, come on, I got plenty of time. There's nobody else, right? If I don't have enough time, that's on me. Well, that's a lot of paperwork on my part. Took the exam, didn't say anything. I started seeing you guys getting your results back. I log on. I don't see anything. So Frank says, well, submit a ticket. You need to play it forward and help everybody else out so they don't have this issue. Is that right? I submit a ticket and I piss off the testing gods, right? But the crazy part about it, circumstance, is that my Gmail account was working. This is right around the time when Franklin was pubbing SC200, merge your learn account with your certificate, do all this stuff. So that happened. So now I don't have any search, anything. I finally got it fixed. And what happened was I can change it back to Gmail, but if I unlink my account, I can't get free exams anymore, something like that. But it said fail. I said, I failed the exam. So Frank said, well, go in and look at your needs improvement. You know how you fail, they said you need improvement here. It won't show it. So I go to some of the other exams I failed. Franklin's quite aware of the exams I didn't pass, right? You can never fail unless you can't try again. That's my take on that, right? Unless they say you failed and something comes down and whacks your head off, right?
I know it's a valid test if if Edward fails the first
Yeah,
time.
yeah.
If he
So
passed the first time, then I knew it would be too easy of a test for everyone.
yeah. So I go through and I said, well, let me look at the AZ 500 because I didn't pass that the first time. It showed me you need improvement here. So I went back and I think they failed me for a no show. She didn't put it in the paperwork, right? So I'm not gonna sweat it. I got bigger fish to fry, but I am
Yeah,
gonna go back and
you can
take the
take the
exam.
test again.
Yeah, but I got to
So
get these renewals. The reason I knew that my account was fixed because I started getting all these emails. Hey, you need to renew your AZ 500, your MS 500,
So
and one
I
more.
want to talk about this because I answered a question today on Reddit about this. Some people are freaking out about the fact that the year is only a year. When you get the certification, it's only good for a year now. I'm like, listen, going out and taking the test on Learn is free. It's not a big deal. If you fail, go study the areas that you messed up on and go back and take the test again. I actually have not taken certification tests just because I didn't want to deal with the renewal process. Microsoft and other security related certifications. So I think that what Microsoft has done has been great. If I didn't write questions for all the different tests, I would actually go out and get the certifications, more certifications, but I don't want to confuse my test writing questions.
I agree with you that Microsoft got it right, and this should have been done by all the other testing. I'm a route switch guy. That's that's where I
But
came from. So,
they have a certain, these other tests out there, not Microsoft. Their revenue is coming off of your renewals and all that other fun stuff.
Correct.
So, they're for profit in that area. Microsoft's for profit on you using Azure the right way,
yeah.
not the learning side. But hey, we have some questions over here. Let's talk about something of lesser importance than your certifications.
Well, hold on.
What
My
is this?
certifications are important. I mean, they blend to the freedom, the liberty of the free world. Let
What
me
is
tell you
this?
quickly. Let me tell
Okay,
you
go ahead.
quickly though to the Reddit people. You should have a more frequent renewal period. Technology changes so much that if you wait a long time and try to make a composite test of all the changes that have occurred over it used to be 3 years or whatever and never expired, you couldn't pass. I found myself not being able to get my Cisco certifications renewed. It changed so much. But if I had to renew on a yearly basis, just a renewal test makes sense.
Yeah.
And the three people that started the certification revolution, Novell, Microsoft, Cisco. That's who did it.
I was Novell certified, and I think it was 86, 87. There you go. Ray Norda signed it, all that good stuff. So, what is this print nightmare? What is this?
Oh,
What?
the print nightmare. Okay, so this there's this couple reports. There is an incomplete update for the print spooler for a June 2021 fix. People are worried about and trying to get some guidance around. I don't know if you guys heard this or not, but it's really not as big an issue as it's being made out to be. Literally, if you just apply the June 2021 update, it should be resolved. And if you can't apply the
Well,
update,
what's going on?
turn off
Explain.
the print spooler. Because of the incomplete update, the print spooler is left open for remote execution. So somebody can take over the computer or the system or domain controller. If it happens to be a domain controller, they could literally take it over. So worst case, turn off the print spooler service. And then I've got a query already for Sentinel to identify those systems that might potentially be affected. So
what logs does that pull from on Sentinel checking?
Let me go back and look.
It's the query. The query.
It's the device file events. So you have to have the extra log files connected through MDE, or it's event ID 808, I believe, if you pull it in through security events.
Okay.
But there's a built-in query that, well, I don't know if it's built in. It's in my portal, but you can look at services that are running, and all you have to do is put in a search string and identify a computer group or use some wildcard or something that just says computer name, but you can really identify that because I've seen the ability to do that in Azure Monitor just to make sure the services were running
Oh yeah.
right and up and down. So here's the biggest thing inside MCAS and something else. It gives security recommendation that says it tells me that I have a domain controller with a press spooler turned on.
There you go. Well,
But
and
don't.
with your with your AT&T issue,
Yes,
that
it's
could be a
AT&T
bigger
that did.
could be a bigger problem than normal.
Let me stop. Anybody that works for AT&T, I'm only joking. You suck. I'm not, but
Well,
I'm only joking again.
Well, you did see
Um,
that Microsoft acquired AT&T networking 5G technology for Azure operators today, right?
was
So
it written in green? If it's written in green, I didn't see
it
it.
must have been green, yeah.
I didn't see it. No, man, good stuff. It's hot as all get out in Georgia. I learned a couple of things today. We got Brody that's calling himself trying to come with the big boys. Now he wants to learn MDI, Azure Defender and everything. Like, I want to set up MDI in Azure and I'm going to run Mimikatz. No, you're not. Put that stuff on premise, Brody. You're
Why
going to
not
get
run it in Azure?
because you're going to get a nasty email and you're going to get shut off. I know, but you can apply for an exception if you want to
Right.
do red teaming against it. You and I talked about that a while back,
Right.
right? The form is updated. It's not as onerous to get approval now, right? I don't know.
Back in the day, I was talking about, what is the, setting up malware analysis servers and sending stuff up like that. And there was actually not good guidance for that back in the day. But hey, listen, we have a guest this week. That you
We do have
brought,
a guest.
so let's do the intros and get on to the topic.
As Randall can see, this is a clown show production that we put on around here, right? But we are a show of highly opinionated facts, right? So Randall is a Microsoft architect, Azure security architect, and his specialty is identity. And we focus so much on some of the threat intel stuff around Sentinel, MDE, MCAS, the best product ever made known to man. We sometimes forget there is things, security and compliance, insider risk, but identity. I have an affinity for this too because I fancied myself an identity when I first started doing work at Microsoft, and I used to use the cliche identity is the new perimeter, the new firewall. Because if I can break your identity, either take it over, impersonate you, or circumvent it, I got you, right? Especially if I can go undetected. And now with all this B2B, B2C shared, and then you're sending these attacks all around these things, right? So one of the best products to see out there outside of maybe Azure Active Directory Identity Protection is MCAS to see identity related type of activity that looks suspicious, right? Sentinel can't do it, MDE can't do it, right? So I'm just saying. But we got Randall on. He wants to come in and talk about a topic. He had so many plus examples. We had to boil this down. Randall, if you want to add anything else to it. Oh, let me tell you something. I got the most unique compliment of you. Yeah, you got to take it for what it is. I won't say who said it. They said they enjoy talking to you. It's like talking to a Vulcan. Very concise and very logical. They called you very logical. I'll tell you who said that. They said, "Oh my God, talking to him is a pleasure." I said, "Yeah, he does remind you of Vulcan. He does sort of talk very logical, right?" It's one of our peers. I'll tell you who said it. So, sir, go ahead and introduce yourself. Talk about anything that is your passion, and
well,
we'll learn
first,
something today.
you said you started at Microsoft in identity. Were you at Identity and Protection TSP back in the day when they had those?
No, I was teaching partners how to create security practices. So one of my strong points, because of working with MCAS, was working with that, and I saw that, and I'm like, hey, look at all these activities around this. So no, I'm not really a heavy.
This might explain why the partners know nothing about MDE.
Well, they know all my partners know MCAS like the back of their hand. I tell you that. But no, I'm not one of those identity gurus like you. Franklin exposed me of that because he sent me to this podcast. I thought I understood Kerberos. I don't. I really didn't. I watched that podcast 4 times. Like, oh, that's how that works. Okay. But my kung fu is still pretty good. It's not as good as yours, but we'll
Yeah, I love identity because identity is your key to the cloud. If you talk about security, on premise, the user ID and password, but identity is the key to get into any cloud service. If you're going to access something in Azure or something in Salesforce, it's that identity is the key to the cloud. I'll say a couple things about myself. I've been in cybersecurity for over 20 years. I worked in a lot of different industries on the customer side, right? I worked in oil and gas. I worked in financial services at a hedge fund. I worked at a hospital. So I've done pretty much every role in cybersecurity, but for the last over a decade, I've been specializing just in identity. And when you talk about the advent of the cloud and all the services moving out of your data center to somebody else's, identity is the linchpin. So I saw that, a decade ago, and, I raised my hand within my security team that I'm going to focus on this and help harden our identities. Because if we're going to move more and more to cloud services, this becomes more critical. So that's what I've been doing for over a decade. Been at Microsoft for a number of years. I'm a global black belt. I think this year we're identity global black belts. Next year we're going to be like zero trust global black belts. Same thing. But a lot of our zero trust methodology and our solutions, there's an identity thread. And to Edward's point, when you talk about MCAS, so we have a great solution called Microsoft Defender for Identity, and that does identity analysis and UEBA functions for your on-premise Active Directory. But if you want some of those anomalous activities and reporting for identity in the cloud, MCAS is your tool for that. So there's lots of different things that we have in our tool belt. But I agree. So I've been using MCAS for a lot of the identity protection stuff. Obviously, Azure Active Directory has a lot of the protections and the access control. But if you want analytics and anomaly detection and all sorts of stuff, you're going to use MCAS for cloud identity protection stuff.
For our users who don't know what MCAS, Microsoft Cloud App Security, right? So
yeah, it's our Gartner leading CASB. It's been in the Gartner Leader Quadrant for years, just like Azure Active Directory, Gartner Leader, for years in the Access Management Quadrant. So they work hand in hand. And I think that's why Microsoft, us here, we sell these things in bundles because they're coded and they're designed to work together. These tools really do. And they stand alone, and you can buy them standalone. But when you have all of them operating, that's really your defense in depth approach. Mm-hmm. So I don't know how you guys want to do this. I could just go into the, Edward reached out to me recently and he said, hey, we've got this podcast and we talk about interesting things. We have a large community that want to hear about topics. And the thing that was top of mind for me this year was helping. A lot of them were the hospitals, our healthcare customers. I am the Identity Global Black Belt for all of healthcare, North and South America. And we had to get all of them online. And, a lot of people were going to the clinics, but over half the hospital are not clinical people. They are people in IT, administrative, all these other roles, and they were all sent home. But the hospital was the most critical needed service, in our communities of the last 18 months. So I remember like the first week of the pandemic, I would have CTOs and other directors at different health systems around the country. They would call me and be like, help Microsoft. We have to get all these things on the internet online that used to be just in a clinic. We can't even sign our time cards. We can't even do this or that. We need to get all this stuff, these applications available in a secure manner, right? Some of this stuff was on premise, and security was often a blocker in some of our industries, like healthcare, financial services. They have a lot of legacy tech. Well, overnight, we had to throw this stuff over the internet, but then do it in a secure way. So they would contact Edward, they contact myself, other security architects at Microsoft, like, how do we do this? How do we architect it? So that was top of mind for me.
Yeah. So did you find there was that one vulnerability that hit a lot of health-related institutes in Europe because it seemed like they were very far behind on the technology? Did that end up being a good thing in the long run because they got a little bit more secure and were ready to make the transition? Or
a healthcare breach is never a good thing. I mean, it's tragic because healthcare is there. I worked in hospitals, so I mean, you're talking life and death. Ransomware has been a huge thing in healthcare for the last few years, and hackers know it. They were taking advantage of it. They were taking advantage of this last week. It is never a good thing. Often they, unfortunately, sometimes they just have to pay the ransom to get the patient data back.
I did some work in Europe and I said, wow, these organizations are very far behind. How does that compare to the US? I mean, is the US
You know,
Tough
a
to-
lot of our large U.S. health systems that I work, they have offices in Europe and in the Middle East. So I've been working across the globe on this. I think Europe's different. If you talk about the UK, they have that centralized health system. You know, there are a few private industries that people go to and pay, but that's kind of ubiquitous across the UK. I don't want to give commentary on this show. I work a lot in India too, but I've seen top providers that are global, you know, across the globe. I think overall, you can say fairly as an industry that they have more legacy tech. I mean, the MRI machine is in the clinic, and you'll have it connected to the local network, but connected to the internet and stuff hasn't been done, until recently. And how do we do this? Medical IoT. How do we do it in a safe way? If you can hack a person's pacemaker and kill them, well, we need higher security there. So I think this year has really pressed the fast forward button in the healthcare industry, and cybersecurity has been leading the way. Okay, we're going to do this. We have to do this. How do we do it in a secure way? And it's not just Microsoft. We've been generously working with so many other vendors. We always say security is a team sport. So let's work together to accomplish the mission. The mission's patient care. And as a technologist, our mission is secure patient care to give them the security tools and controls to make it happen. So
and kudos to Ireland to say we're not paying. It was Ireland, right? We're not paying.
Yeah.
This is a teaching moment for us. We'll take the pain. We'll go to our backups. We'll use this moment to test the other processes, restore continuity, and do that. And a lot of companies don't want to. And what's even more scary is that a lot of them don't learn. If you go back and do a post audit of what they have done to improve themselves a year later, nothing has changed.
Yeah. And, I've done some work with the FBI, and I think that I've seen them change their tune over the time. I don't give commentary for them, but I've seen them with my customers, saying they used to say pay the ransom. Now they changed their tune that we're not paying the ransom, and we're going to work on resilience and other things like you had just mentioned, Edward, so that you're not in a bad situation where you would pay. So I've seen that from messaging from law enforcement of not paying, but that's another topic. So anyway, what we're going to talk about today is, I think the title was Securely Managing Customer and Citizen Identities, how Microsoft protected patient identities during the pandemic, but really lessons for any industry. So a huge topic within the Microsoft identity teams has been, external identities, what we're calling it. We have a product called B2C, business to consumer or citizen or patient. The cool thing about this is all of our customers, their business is interacting with their customers, right? We're enabling their business. So every company you deal with, most companies I deal with, they don't want to be in the IT business. They don't even want to be in the security business. They have a business, they have a service, and they're focused on their constituents, their customers, their citizens, and providing the services. So identity is this great business enabler. And this is the part I've always loved about identity. I've always been on the security team. IT was seen as a necessary evil. Even security was seen as a necessary evil. Now, very important, even critically more in the last decade, right? But identity is this true business enabler. So for example, we run the largest IDaaS, Identity as a Service platform in the world. Microsoft does. Azure AD B2C, the largest IDaaS service. Okay. We go to customers and they say, well, I want to reach more customers. I want to scale from 1 million to 20 million over the next year. I want to do business in the Middle East. I want to do business in Africa. My customer management system running in my own data center was only designed to service my market in, let's say, North America. I don't have 36 languages built in like Microsoft does. I don't have 100 data centers spread throughout the globe, for immediate availability. I don't even have, most customers, a world-class security team with thousands of security researchers making sure my consumer, citizen, patient identities are safe. I just can't do all that at the scale that Microsoft can. So they come to Microsoft and say, do you have an identity solution for us that all of my customers, my 20 million customers, can log in safely, securely, and immediately available throughout the world so they can get onto my websites and buy or participate in my products and services? That's what B2C is. That's what we have, the market leading solution in this space. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to show my screen here. And
So how do you
yeah.
deal with the compliance of only storing that customer data? Is identity still considered PII from a data standpoint, and you have to store it in the specific regions? How is all that managed?
Yeah, so one element, let me get my screen up here. Okay, you guys can see it. Okay, so compliance. Number one, we have worldwide availability, but you have data residency either in the US or Europe at this point. I don't know if they're going to add more regions, whatever, but right now you can choose data residency. So that's important for GDPR, you know, that you would have data residency. But then worldwide availability. So that's one issue. Number two, you're in control of your data and the data you want to keep there. A lot of customers keep sensitive data still within their customer relationship management system, their CRM or their ERP. So you can still have, really, B2C is going to provide an authentication layer, a security front door to your apps for your consumers, but you can keep that sensitive data where it already resides or any connected system. You
So
know,
for the
and
most
then
part, you're saying that identity itself is not PII, but the data, their medical information is considered the PII. They can be stored in the proper regions.
yeah. So for example, we have a lot of health systems across the world that if you go to their website and you log into their, you know, Epic is a main EMR, you guys probably have this. Do you have a My Chart at the hospital that you're served at? You know, a My Chart is how you check your own patient record. Well, that's literally held on the Epic database. That's where your data is at. Now, front-ending My Chart for a lot of health systems and clinics is Azure AD B2C, where you're going to log in with your maybe a social identity or a local user ID and password at your health system, or maybe you're federated from another hospital or your Google account or whatever, however you get in. You might have a multi-factor authentication challenge. That would be Microsoft. You know, you can use your own or you can use the built-in MFA with B2C. Then you're going to be, you know, we're basically acting as the front-end identity provider, right? Authentication and then authorization flows. Well, then you're going to be sent to the application that's connected to B2C. And in that instance, it would have been Epic MyChart, where your data resides in the hardened Epic database, either in Epic's data lake that's in Wisconsin, or that's running on premise in the data center of that health system. Does that make sense?
Except for I thought they were in Utah.
Okay. So, you know, I'm not, you know, this is a podcast and a blog, so I'm going to be high level. I'm not going into, you know, exactly, but I want to give you guys a feel because I know, you know, Edward said that this is mostly security people. And so, you know, I'll focus on the security aspects, but some of this stuff might be new to you. So I'll kind of go high level and really paint, you know, the business value of what we're doing here. So our customers have their customers. Their bread and butter, their business is interacting with those customers. B2C, Microsoft provides a identity platform for them to be able to do that and do it in a secure manner, right? So you see here on my screen, this is an overview of Azure Active Directory B2C. You can use government IDs, you can use social IDs, your email accounts, you can have local accounts, and then we have authentication and authorization policies, you know, giving customers access to their applications. Obviously, we have analytics with it. You know, you can integrate with other systems, et cetera. I think a good way to show you what I'm talking about is I'm just going to show a little demo. This is what I do talking to customers when we want to go through, like, you know, what can we do for you? You know, what are you doing today? So here's an example. We're going to call this, you know, a clinic website. You know, this would be like nameyourhealthcareprovider.com or .edu or .org or whatever. This is just their own website. But when you click on, for example, sign up, you're brought to a page that this is all under your control of branding. So your white label experience, you can customize every aspect of this, put your own pictures or whatever. I've got a grocery store demo here. I've got a banking demo here. This just happens to be the healthcare demo. You know, this page is going to link you to different user journeys or user flows, depending on how you want to design them. The couple things I want to point out here, this would be like your main login portal, is these languages. So Microsoft builds in over 36 different languages just built in to this product. So again, the worldwide nature of this. A lot of my customers, they're expanding. Maybe they started in North America or they started in Australia, but they have a global reach and their business is growing and they want to interact with those other markets. Well, we can do that. This is a global service. So 36 built languages, but you can bring any language and you can customize all the text on this screen. So you can write it in any language that you want. You're not limited to those 36. Okay, so you have kind of 3 different user journeys here. Let's say individual member, call this a patient, the tile on the left. This would be a patient login. You can either sign in or you can sign up the first time. The middle one, let's call this one like maybe you're a hospital employee and you also want to access, the patient portal. You would sign in with an enterprise account. You'd sign in with your, hospital.org ID. Then the last one, let's call this one partners. It's providers. A lot of physicians, some are hospital employees, but a lot are they're moonlighting. They're like contractors and they work at 4 or 5 different hospitals. So you can use actually Azure AD B2B to federate to a B2C experience, So all of this is federation technology. So you can have employees accessing, you can have partners accessing, you can have true consumers accessing. And depending on where you want to go, I'm going to just say, hey, sign in here. So you're going to see the sign up experience. Again, all this is customizable. You can sign in with a social account and you are in control of this totally. You don't have to sign in with social accounts. You could just say we're allowing local accounts or federation accounts. But in this example demo, you can sign in with your Google, Microsoft, or Facebook account. You can also here just sign in with existing account. Most of our customers, they already have existing accounts. And really, this is how this usually comes to us, guys, is that most companies did identity management themselves. They did it on premise, and they usually have an aging system. It's 10, 15, 20 years old. They have multiple web servers. They might have some on-premise Active Directories. They have this aging infrastructure, and they were managing when they were a startup, and now they're growing to millions and millions of consumers, and they're still managing identity management in an old way, in a legacy way, right? And they don't want to be in that business. They want to grow. They want to outsource this identity management to someone else. And that's what the notion of IDaaS, identity as a service, is. And all the different analysts, Forrester and Gartner, they said, really, you should be moving to an IDaaS model. Okay, so that's kind of the state of the customer. So they come to us and say, okay, I have 5 million patient identities already in my Epic database. I want to use those and now add some more applications and grow and add some other things and migrate to B2C. So we can do that. We can you can connect and use the data that's already in other data stores. You can migrate it in. You can keep apps and data where they're at and just do the authentication B2C. It's all under your control. I do want to point out a couple things here. Some of the services we offer, like why would you do this? A lot of customers have said most of their cost of dealing with their customers is calls to the help desk to reset the password. They said that's a huge cost. It's calls that also reset the password because they have 5 million customers who log in once every 2 years. They don't remember their password. So this is built-in SSPR, forgot your password. We'll go through a self-service password reset flow. It's just something built into the identity platform. And obviously multi-factor authentication is also built into the identity platform.
So let me ask you this. So if you view the code for the page, are you building out? So me as a hospital, I've got this. Is this a page that I'm customizing? Is this how is this coming about? Am I just inserting a link and calling out to the other side? How is that done?
Yeah, so it's all customizable, and we have some stuff you can put your own HTML, your own JavaScript. We have some default company branding examples here where you can get in and start uploading pictures and things like that. This is just a demo. This is not related to anything that, here. This is just a demo tenant.
So you basically, from the main page, you redirect them to login whatever, and then it's going to the B2C company branding page for them to do the authentication for the session. Is that what's going on?
Yes. And we just released a custom branding feature. Before, you would see literally in the URL. I'll go back to the screen. you would see here, well, login.woodgrove demo, but I think this is already converted where we've got it where it's still going to be the URL. We have custom URL thing that we release so that the consumer will never know. You just think that, this is my company. They'll never know that they're on B2C, basically.
Well, my questions before we move forward is that with the it seemed like endless stream of user identities, passwords, and Facebook is still the 952-pound gorilla, and there are a lot of privacy concerns that are both being, legislated, talked about. When you tell me, I very rarely, when something asks me, do I want to sign in with my Google account, my Facebook account, and you had one more that was, with this there. Is there any liability on the customer by providing that identity integration rather than make someone create an account that's unique to the portal that they're logging into? Because what if the auxiliary validating or existing identity has issues, or is it on you, right? Because I never do that ever. When someone said, "Would you like to log in with your account?" No, I'll create a net new account, use some type of service like 10-minute password or iPass to manage those things. Is there any liability on the Microsoft side for this integration type? And it probably not just Microsoft. Google has it, AWS has it. When you allow this type of existing identity integration to occur.
Not for Microsoft. They got great lawyers.
Well,
I'll say
beyond the obvious, Frank.
We are providing the tool set. Now it's up to the business and the industry, depending on what their compliance, whether they do. I serve the regulated industries, financial services, healthcare. A lot of them don't do social identities. They have local accounts. And what I'm showing on the screen now, you can create and design a user flow that achieves your compliance state. So for example, to have like a physician, has to go through identity proofing before they can even create an account in a guest hospital EMR, right? So there's a regulation there that you can't just say, oh yeah, I'm credentialed, I'm an oncologist. Well, no, you aren't. You're a dude at Microsoft. How do you prove that you have the credentials to be an oncologist and therefore moonlight and contract at my hospital? So in part of the flow to sign up for your account, the doctor is signing up for an account at this hospital, you would literally design a flow in B2C that, okay, you're going to authenticate, but then you have to go through this third-party identification, verification, proving service. So this is called identity proofing. There's lots of different companies, ExoStar. We have a few of them that are in different industries that are commonly used, their service is to validate credentials. The attorneys do this, financial services does this, healthcare does this. So Microsoft's not liable. The privacy officer at every healthcare company understands that requirement, and now they can use the tools we provide to have a workflow. Yeah, Microsoft's can help them create a portal where they can onboard new physicians, but one of the design pieces that we're going to link together for them is we're going to go out to another service all within the same user flow. So this is a piece that we're the connective tissue to make sure before they can have an account and get a password or be federated logging on the first time, I have to have an access approval from that identity proofing service. So that's one way to answer your question. But yeah, you don't have to. I'll go back here. Maybe it's up here in our documentation, how you can log in. I mean, it's just so diverse. I think I'll just show you in the admin console. So here's identity providers. You can just have a local account. And a lot of our organizations, they have a database on premise that has all the user ID and passwords. They don't want them logging in with Amazon, Apple, Facebook, WeChat and Weibo in China. But Microsoft services all industries and all customers. So many of our customers, it's very appropriate. They want their customer base logging in with a social identity. That is the easiest thing to do. So we provide that, but you don't have to use a social provider whatsoever.
So in the end application, basically you're passing over an ID, which then they're utilizing, some sort of GUID or something like that they're then utilizing to give access inside their custom application.
You got, this is built on modern auth. So it's either SAML, OpenID Connect, or OAuth 2. It's modern auth. So we're a secure token service that is going to send a token, a claim, an assertion back and forth between apps and users, right? We're the identity provider in a secure token service.
Okay.
They have to validate who they are. They've got to log in. You know, another cool thing that I want to point out when you get into the security features of this, are you guys familiar with identity protection and conditional access? This is the most used deployed feature of EMS is Azure AD conditional access. It's usually the first thing customers do when they move to Office 365 or the cloud, this conditional access. Are you guys familiar with that?
Oh, we're very familiar with that.
Yes, sir.
Not a week goes by that we don't talk about that.
Except for when Frank tries to use conditional access to say, provide your certification pass certificate to get in. if I don't provide my pass, I can't get in, right? So I'm locked out until I take the test again. But but all jokes aside, yeah, absolutely super familiar. Yes.
So last year, this was such a loved and powerful security technology. We added that to B2C. When B2C started, I did some projects on this. It didn't have that. You had to custom build that type of authorization policy. You could do it through custom policies, but now it's just built in. The same conditional access that's in Azure AD, the same types of features are in B2C. So what that looks like, for example, I'll go back to the admin console. Within your Azure, Microsoft Azure portal and Azure AD B2C, this is the resource. There's a whole security section where you can design a conditional access policy just like you would with Azure AD. But now this is for your consumers. So you would say, okay, let's say all customers or just a group of customers, those who access, the patient MyChart, the cloud app, let's say Salesforce, someone's logging into the CRM. And then you have these conditions, the device platform, we have all the different platforms, Android, iOS, Windows Phone, not really, Windows, Mac OS, and the location. If you're not doing business in name a country, then you probably want to block access from that. So there's just a way to limit your risk here. So the same location-based conditional access. We're not doing business in Africa right now, so I'm not going to allow anybody from Africa to access my customer-facing, internet-facing portal, and devices. Now, the identity protection piece here, I don't have this one added to this just demo tenant, is that is also part of B2C now. So identity protection, I think, here's all the different risks. So this is something Microsoft provides for every authentication against your customer-facing portal. Things like atypical travel, anonymous IP addresses, malware-linked IP address, right? Password spray attempts, sign-ins through password spray attack. If we see, this is the part I love so much, and I think this is one of the main reasons customers have come to us. They're not a deep and wide security shop. They're in the business of providing a service or a good, but they don't have teams of security researchers to make sure that their patients, their customers, their constituents. We have a lot of government entities using this. A lot of different governments of the earth and agencies, et cetera, use B2C, and it's how their citizens log in to their apps and services for their government. Okay.
So how does this integrate in with the Power Apps, the Power Platform, their portal product, and the Dynamics portal product?
Yes. So I was recently part of one pursuit at a customer that they wanted to use all the goodness in Dynamics fraud protection, and B2C was the identity security front door, the authentication authorization layer. But then literally they were going into the CRM, they were going to Dynamics, and they needed to use Dynamics fraud protection. So you can use all the Microsoft goodness, and B2C is just going to be the authentication layer at the front door. And then you would design a user flow, maybe a custom policy to do other things that you want to do. I haven't seen someone using Power Apps yet, so I won't comment on that. But a lot of our customers are using Dynamics, and Dynamics fraud protection on the customer facing system is as a common ask and use.
So do you create like one directory per application, or how is that designed from a large organization with multiple applications?
Yeah, no, you can have as many directories as you want to, but no, you have your one directory, and there could be multiple data sources. If you have a CRM, that's going to be the source of truth for your customer base. The CRM is. This is the authentication system to access that data. Now, what we have here is the applications. You're going to have a number of applications tied to your one B2C directory. That's usually it. One B2C instance. That's going to, connect your apps and your web page and have your users tied to it. You can create any number of policies, any number of user flows, but usually you have one B2C directory.
So how do I know, user ABC, how do I know which applications they have access to?
Oh, this is users, groups, applications. It's all on the policy that you create, So you can say only this group of users can access that app. And now you get into the compliance reasons, right? Yeah, only the physicians can have access to the EMR. I mean, the patients can have access to the My Chart, but they can't access to the main EMR. It's all how you design this user flow and the groups that you give access to. So it's all customizable.
So can you show that a little bit more? Because I don't understand the process.
Okay, so there's different types of what we call user flows. These are the things that B2C can do for you. So we understand it's an identity provider. It does the authentication. It does self-service password reset for customers. But this is, a basic sign up and sign in. Okay, so we're going to create a policy or user flow. We're going to name it Frank Test Policy. We're going to say, okay, I only want local accounts with email sign up. I don't want these social providers. I do want multi-factor authentication when people sign up and sign in. So we're going to say, we'll go SMS. MFA enforcement, we're going to say always on. Conditional access, we're not going to do, but you can configure conditional access policies, user attributes and token claims. Okay, so I think you mentioned this earlier, Frank, is that, okay, what piece of information am I going to collect from the user, or what do I need to pass to the application, And so I'm saying, well, I need to collect, the given name, the surname, and the city, maybe the email address. And obviously there's any other number of attributes more, this is part of the token creation. Okay, then I'm going to create my policy. I'm not going to do that right now. It's not my tenant. Okay, so now you've got a user flow. We're going to go to, let's see, users. Okay, so we got our users. We have guest users, and then you can assign them. I'll go to me.
Does this show up in the normal? Like I'm managing an Azure environment. Will this show up in my Azure Active Directory, all these users, or is this separated out so I don't have to see them?
Yeah, this is separate. So B2C is its own tenant. It stands apart and alone from Azure AD. Now, Azure AD can federate to them. So every Azure subscription, right, has its own Azure AD tenant. So this is, most customers, they'll have Office 365 or Azure AD or, something. They retain that. Now, when you want to say, well, I want to go into B2C as well, you would start your own B2C tenant, right? You'd create a tenant just for B2C. And this follows a principle that we used to do in on-premise identity management for, you guys realize, for years, is usually customers would be separated. If you I have an account at my bank, right? When I log in and create a new checking account and I have online banking, they create me an account somewhere. You could do it in B2C, you can do it in the CRM, whatever. But that doesn't mean that I get identity and the local Active Directory of that bank. That would be inappropriate. That would be a security risk. The customers are kept separate, from the rest of the company. So that's why most of our customers have an Azure AD tenant. It's how they access Azure. It's how they Office 365. Then they're going to create this other tenant for their customers.
So you might have answered this. So let's say I go out and I create an account on app 1. Because I'm on app 1, I automatically should have access to app 2 and 3, but not 4, right?
Yeah.
Because I'm a doctor, right?
Yep.
So when you have these sign-in flows, is that automatically set up, or like me going in there? Oh, Frank is not really that good of a doctor, so he only gets app 1 and 2, not 3 and 4, that sort of thing. Or when I first go out to app 2, do I have to say, I already have an account here? Then it's going to actually link it up from there. Does it? I don't want to take you out of the flow that you're in. Does that get handled properly? Okay.
Yes. Yeah. You design that how you want. This doctor is an oncologist. Remember the identity proofing flow. He has credentials in oncology. Therefore, he's going to be assigned the groups for oncology. Those groups are going to be assigned these 3 apps, but not the 4th app. He doesn't get the pediatrician app. So all of this functions just like Azure Active Directory used to. You got users, you got groups, you got apps, and then you design your user flow, which is the policy that stitches them together.
Okay.
So that is that. Let's go back here. So, the point I was going to make earlier is this is important for your security audience and for Security Blog is I've had some customers where they were being attacked by nation state, and they're like, we're not a security company, and we don't know our on-premise databases and little identity systems weren't set up to deal with the threat. They were not set up to deal with DDoS attacks, password spray attacks, all these sorts of sophisticated things. So that's been the tsunami in my experience the last 3 years in security at Microsoft is customers, they want global availability and they want world-class security. So this.
Go ahead. I'm sorry. I want to make a comment really quick, but go ahead.
So you get the security protections of Azure. So you guys understand this, like the security protections of Azure are what's protecting now our customers, websites, through their patient portals and their banking and their grocery store, people signing up, they're getting the DDoS protection, the password spray protection, and all these other risk types of protections here where we can say, listen, if you're coming from a malware linked IP address, they're just going to be blocked. It could be a hacker trying to launch a ransomware attack. So we're not even going to let them into your application. The front door is going to stop them. They're not even going to get access to the patient record because they're coming from a malware linked IP address. Or, hey, we recognize this pattern, or the Azure, our threat intelligence, tells us that, they're releasing ransomware. They got 2 hospitals in Europe, and now we're going to block this IP address, and none of our other hospitals are going to be attacked.
So let me look at all this goodness. This is good stuff, and this is needed because the world is not waiting on you to get your IT chops up, your security chops up. Either run with the big dog, stay on the porch, eat or be eaten. But let me tell you something about being eaten. How hard is it to find someone like you? It seems like I got to go somewhere to Microsoft. One of the big things that's a big thing with Franklin is training. A lot of times our products are so easy to procure and consume, but the administration, configuration, and management of it is a bear, right? It is hard to find individuals with your skill set. Right, you're at a technology company, and Randall, you staying sharp, and you having a 400 and an expert level, a subject matter expertise level of this is required because you are a trusted brain source. But I'm seeing frustration with customers saying, "Man, we got all this, but we don't even know where to start." And so the outlet of trying to go to a partner, that's not necessarily a guarantee, right? I'm finding more partners are wanting and lacking, right? They can sell it, but they can't deliver it.
I will say, caveat on that point, we've got some great partners who do this, like great partners. I've like 5 that I use commonly. So if we have customers, people watching, we do have a lot of skilled partners in this. But anyway, to your point.
Well,
I think the problem is everybody has to do sets at all. They don't talk about this.
Yeah.
But that's okay.
Yeah. Well, the thing is that you can get that skill partner, but not all the time you can work with that partner, because if you're in a regulated industry, so there are a certain amount of partners you can use, especially if you're federal, SLG. These partners have to be vetted. Let's get out of that. Let's talk about commercial guy. even if I do this so that I'm not tied to that partner, how would you go about getting these people skilled to be able to do this? Because trial by fire sometimes is worse than having
But
no security at all.
but I don't see what what's being done here is from an implementation standpoint, because all the work is already being done for you, is that complex. It's more the fact of the customers knowing that this capability is there, them understanding the pricing to make this happen. I don't see that it is a that much of. I mean, yeah, there is work to be done, but I think that the complexity has been removed for you out there.
Yes.
What I'm glad to see now, for coming from the security side, which kind of drove me crazy during the S3, the SC300 identity exam development, was and this is speaking from security standpoint, was that it was very much focused on, access and authorization. It didn't take into account security, right? I'm sitting there as a security person saying, hey, this is really great, but, I'm glad to know this stuff, but what you're doing there is not stopping me from breaking in, So I'm glad to see that now from an identity and access management standpoint, that is actually being more taken into consideration in this area. So I'm definitely happy to see that. I think people just need to know about that. Was there a lot about this at Ignite or no? I mean, isn't this more pushed from the app dev side so they know that it's available versus the admin side?
Yeah, absolutely. I'll answer that a myriad ways. Number one, I'll just be honest. This isn't a huge moneymaker for Microsoft. You mentioned on pricing real quick. We give this for free. Most of my customers are using this free. This is our pricing guide. It's public, Azure AD B2C pricing. Look at this. The first 50,000 monthly active users are free. A lot of companies, how often do you check your patient record? Once a year when I do a physical? Right? So that I'm only counted once that year, that one, or you could log in 100 times a month, you're only counted once. So most of Microsoft customers are using this totally free. Okay. It's our customers who have millions and millions of users that they're paying a little bit, fractions of a cent per identity. But so it's not a big moneymaker. What it is, and why we're in this business, it's a huge business enabler. Right? So we make money in lots of other areas, but identity is key to the cloud and it's key to security. So we want the best, world-class system to manage identities of every type. Yes, enterprise identities. Yes, identities to Azure. Yes, identities to Office 365. But the most important identities to our customers are their customers. So that's one of the reasons why we provide this service.
So you're playing big brother and good citizen, and that makes sense, right?
Yeah.
So is this more promoted to the developer community?
Yeah, app dev people, absolutely. I'm a security architect, so maybe my lens where I get involved is, customers they want to modernize, or they're on aging infrastructure, and they reach out to us. Usually the CISO, the security team, reach out and say, hey, the business is thinking about making a new customer-facing portal, and the security team wants to make sure it's secure. Microsoft, what controls do you have? How are you going to upgrade our security? Or worse, they've been hacked already. They had a ransomware incident, and now we're rebuilding their infrastructure. We're going to do it with B2C, and the security protections built in. And so they choose us because of the security. So that's my lens. You're going to have usually the business wants something, or the developers are going to run after this. They're the ones who are going to hook this up. Sometimes they have a dedicated identity team, just depends on the size of the customer. To your earlier point, yeah, this is simple. I mean, here's the council. There's only a couple things to do, man. You literally register your application. It doesn't have to be in Azure. This can be on-premise, your web app here. It could be in AWS, it can be in GCP. We don't care where their application is. If they can talk SAML, OpenID Connect, or OAuth, you register your application, you choose your identity providers, you upload your company branding, you can import your users, or you can have them register, and then you create an out-of-the-box user flow. These are the pre-designed user flows. You just step through the wizard. Now, what I will say, if you want something really custom, this is where we actually really shine. But now you're going to have to upload your own, custom policy with coding. So this is, if you want something really crazy that is not already covered in a built-in user flow. So you see, we had here, sign in, sign up. Those are basic things when you're registering on a website. Password resets, these things are all out of the box, and we're adding more to the built-in flows. Then you're going to have to upload a custom policy where you're literally going to write something. I don't know if I want to go into one of these. That is just going to define, exactly what you want the policy to look like. So this is where the developers will get in touch with the project. Either we have a partner come in because they have people who are identity developers and they can write the code, or the customer will have their own app dev people.
So if you're worried about SQL injection on login screens, that goes away.
Yeah, I think that's some of the built-in features of Azure, right? Again, it's the.
I'm just saying, because you're going the login page that they're doing a sign up is actually put out by you guys, not me as a developer developing my own login page. So, which is important.
Yes.
All right. Did we miss anything?
No, I'm just kind of looking at my notes here. I think that's it. I wanted to end and really underscore for your community, the security benefit of this. Customers, if they're on homegrown, if they're doing identity management themselves, and they're not a global multinational security firm, they probably should look at this. You're gonna get the security of Microsoft and our platforms in front of your mission critical assets, your patients, your customers, your citizens. It's a great service. You see, it's very low cost. So there's really no reason not to reach out to your Microsoft representative and try it out. As security people like us, it's another cool way that we can make the world a better place and service people. I like doing it. So, if you work at Microsoft, to some extent, you are compensated by, the revenue that you generated. I've specialized in this last 3 years, and it's not a revenue generator. I did it because I really like helping healthcare organizations, and I want to protect them against ransomware. So I've spent 3 years hardcore focusing on this, getting our healthcare organizations up to snuff, and it has not added to revenue buckets, but it's something that it's important for the industry, important for the world. So I've made a passion project of it, and my management has always supported that. I mean, that's Satya's mission. That's our mission, is, making the world a better place, designing products that can help others do more, achieve more. And so that this is a cool one.
I have to say that I'm probably guilty of not pushing this enough. And after tonight, I definitely will be pushing it more. As a developer, I never want to develop a login screen ever again. As a security person, this is something that, when I'm involved with applications being pushed out, that this is going to be a priority, because it just makes so much more sense.
It definitely makes sense for me because, I cover a lot of FSI. So there are a lot that is a very customer-based, industry, right? Whether they have member firms, which are, sub banks or sub investments, or just direct customers, right? So this makes, huge sense that someone needs to take the lead on this, right? It's not getting better. And if you make the process of trying to put at least some of the baseline security sanity checks in place, people will have the closet in the fire mentality. I'll hide in the closet and hopefully the fire will pass me by. No, it's not passing you by. So I learned a bunch of stuff about this today, because I did not realize the capability of Azure Active Directory extended out to B2C in this manner. I knew it was inside, like, to take care of the organization as a whole to be able to do these things. But the biggest surprise I got was the pricing, right? I always thought Microsoft's like, get that money, right? But
Yeah, this is crazy. It's crazy.
yeah, that is the only
Yeah,
thing
it's,
I've seen cheaper
It's
than
okay.
this.
they'll change the price next year.
Oh, here we
All
go.
right, so hey,
The only thing I've seen
I'm
cheaper
coming
than
from the
this.
Dynamics Power Platform. Come on, I have to throw that dig in.
Yeah.
Brody says, "You rock, Randall. I have a few B2B, B2C engagements coming up with healthcare providers. Great timing. Thank you. Is there any upcoming feature or enhancement that you are excited about, which you can share?"
Yeah, I think nothing I share. What I can generalize it. We're doing a whole lot more within. It's been a big focus of ours. So I want to answer that first. I'll show. So in your custom policies, these are just written in XML, right? Just XML, simple. But we have so many samples on GitHub. There's a thriving community of. This is a developer platform. Of all the things we do in identity, B2C is known to be the developer platform for identity. So there's lots of samples on GitHub. We have great forums. There's great documentation. We have lots of learning videos on that. Okay, the thing I'm excited about is that we're doing more in the out-of-the-box user flows. So this is what we've been working on the last year, is we're going to have more of these, because this is the response we've had from customers, is they're like, I'm not an identity developer. They're like, I came to Microsoft, I'm looking for an IDaaS product because I don't have 10 developers and 10 security engineers and researchers. Okay, so they want more out of the box. They want more in the GUI. They want more of these pre-canned user flows. So yes, we're working on a lot more in this space, and those will be released this year, next year. We're going to keep putting a lot of our effort in here. Now, it's great to have the extensibility of uploading your own XML and doing anything crazy custom you want. This is where we really shine. There's a few other players in this space, not a lot, but there's a few of them. We're the largest. Number one theme from the other competitors in this space is they have more built-in user flows, right? They have more out of the box. So we want to ramp up that capability, and we focused on it, and you're going to see more and more coming into the portal. But another thing about Microsoft versus the competition is that we're more extensible. This identity experience framework, what I've heard from my customers is you can do a lot more with it, right? This is a real, sky's the limit type of thing, where some of the other competitors, I think it's more cookie cutter. So we're adding more cookie cutter templates for the customers who want it. But if you want to, have someone log in, pick up some data from an on-premise database, go to 5 other apps around the way, pick up some more data, bring it back to B2C, and then send data out to all those places. I mean, go for it. And this, what we call identity experience framework, is a great way to make the product extensible. So thanks for your question.
Yep.
Very good. Oh man, there is so much more, because you and I talked out of band and we chose this topic to go forward, but you make some great examples of some projects that you've worked on. And once again, identity, right? I'm breaking your identity, whether it's an identity attached to a human or an identity attached to a process. Managed identity, old traditional service account. I break you, I got you, right?
Yeah.
And so I think people don't realize, I think we take it for granted that people would realize this, but they don't, because we keep seeing the results of not understanding this or not raising their hand to get help.
The attackers understand it very well.
The attackers understand. Yeah, they do. And I think the customers need to understand this. To our listeners that have customers, go tell them this. If you think you are the only one that has bought E5, the bad guys are buying it and they're beating up on it. So you got to embrace.
For some reason,
this.
they can't get Defender for Endpoint. I'm kidding.
Yeah, well.
No. I mean, so anybody listening to the podcast, if you actually have, developers doing custom login screens into applications, that's an easy target to go after right there, to get them to move over, because obviously one of the way that the attackers get in are those login screens. So take advantage of what Microsoft's built.
For sure. The platform is there. It does require genuine effort, right? Don't say the technology or the tool set is insufficient and inadequate. You got to put the work in, right? You're talking to a guy that has a mindset. I run distance. It is the most mindless activity you could do in your life, right? It's short of cycling, but you got to put the effort in, because if you fake, you'll be found out. Either you won't finish or you go left when you should have went right, right? And You got to be a friend of the show to get that reference, right? Well, Randall, this has been hugely informative. As we get into night and some more announcements that are going to be coming out, Microsoft's end of year is today.
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 Yeah.
Today. The things will start rolling out. You don't have to wait for an invite. If you say, "Hey, I got something cool I want to talk about," hit me up, hit Rod up, hit Franklin up, and say, "Hey, I want to talk about this. You guys need to know about this, right?"
Sweet. Thanks for having me.
We love that type of teach us something, right?
When we look at security, identity, and compliance, I'd have to say that identity has been the thing that we've talked a lot about compliance and security, of course, but I think we've been lacking in the identity side. So I'm excited to have done the show.